The thing that comes to my mind first is something that King Theoden says in The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, as the forces of evil are marching upon the good guys. He says, "So much death. What can men do against such reckless hate?" I'm sure that y'all are well aware of what all is happening in our country right now. You can't escape it. From the news outlets, the first several headlines are concerning the horrible murder of George Floyd and the subsequent chaos that has ensued. If you're on social media, obviously many of you be accessing this video from Facebook. I pray that a number of our youth will be watching it from our PCC Facebook page. You are aware that social media is awash with it. I can't get away from it, and I don't even use social media that much. My Facebook feed is occupied with things from some of the spiritual Christian writers that I follow, over to Hans Zimmer, of all people, reposting something about the various things that are going on right now. And perhaps you are staying in one response mode, but perhaps you've kind of moved past that to the stage of internal confusion. What am I supposed to feel about this? How am I supposed to respond? What's supposed to take place? What's going to happen here? I recognize the danger of opening one's mouth. Indeed, as I lay in bed last night thinking about this video, and as I wrote up my thoughts, my notes as it were, for this, I was unsettled. I know that in today's world, I don't anticipate this video having a wide viewership. I'm just mostly making this for my church family. But it is easy to get your head chewed off. It's easy to misspeak a word or two or multiple, and run the risk of getting killed for it, metaphorically. Indeed, that's unfortunately the pattern that has been set by our country, is to post something tacky on social media, intentionally inflammatory, and then to get your head chewed off for it. That's not my goal today. I don't want to dismiss this. I don't want to glibly go through these things. My goal is that we love our neighbors as ourselves. My goal is that we know that God is sovereign, and that there are things that He says to us. There are responses that we can and should have as Christians that will ultimately lead us to more opportunities and better opportunities to truly love. With an issue like this, and with our cultural climate the way that it is, we, I would say particularly as 21st century Americans, we want quick and easy responses to things. We want soundbite responses. We want to know, okay, we should feel anger. Great, I feel anger. Many of y'all are there. I've been there. We want to feel annoyed. We read these things and we slough them off. It's so annoying because of this. Or perhaps it is sadness. That is our nice quick response. And I was crying last night. I was crying this morning again in anticipation of this video. Anger, annoyance, and sadness, those are good. Those are good responses, but to think about these issues, I don't think it's appropriate to just give a glib, a quick and easy response. Indeed, I would probably argue that much of the perpetuated chaos is because people don't slow down to think. So that's what we're going to do. I don't know how long this video is, probably long. Y'all know me. I tend to go long. But my desire is to use this to bless you to help us to look at what's going on in our own hearts, to help us look at what's going on in the world, and to move forward uh, as Jesus would have us to. So let me pray for this, and I would ask that you pray along with me. Don't just kind of zone out at this part in the YouTube video. I know that's my temptation, but I pray that this would be a prayer of your own heart. God, there's so much death. There's so much reckless hate. And we need your mercy. We need your grace. Lord, I've prayed through this, but I know that I am human. I am fallible. Protect me from misspeaking, or from in any way besmirching your glory, or in any way evidencing a lack of love. Lord, have mercy and forgive me for where that's true. I pray that you would open my heart, that you would open the hearts of all of those watching to help us to see what you want us to see, to hear what you want us to hear, to think how you want us to think. Please guide us and make us more like your Son. Have mercy on us. In Jesus' name, amen. The best place to start in this sort of problem, I guess, would be with the facts. George Floyd, an innocent man, was choked to death. And those responsible for this are those who are supposed to protect him, supposed to protect others. Y'all, I'm always hesitant to make definitive assertions about the facts of things if I'm not sure about them. I'm sure that the man who committed this murder should be imprisoned. That's another video, but I believe that you can make a pretty good biblical case for the death penalty when you rob someone of his life. Your right to that life is forfeit. I don't know all the details. Y'all don't hold me to this in terms of a court of law. I didn't think through that one too. But I do know that the man who committed this awful murder should be punished extensively because of the wickedness of his action. We also know that people have responded with protesting, sometimes peaceful, and then it has gotten into rioting and looting and all manner of awful stuff. National Guard has been sent out. State National Guard has been sent out too. You can get those facts on news outlets. I would encourage you to probably not get all your facts based on social media, but the news outlets are much better much of the time. Responding to it, we get our facts, and the best place to start is in terms of a biblical worldview. That's the best place, I say, but it's not where we need to start. We need to start by thinking through racism. It's a hard thing to think through, and it's a dangerous thing to think through because of all the stuff that's going on in our world, all the stuff that is so inflammatory. I know I already used that word, but we can say that the murder of George Floyd was racially motivated. It seems likely. We can say that this is the bigger issue that needs to be addressed. And whether or not we agree with that, we as Christians should know how to respond to that. And so just some biblical thoughts. I don't have verses, but you all know I pray through these things, and I'm familiar with the scriptures. We should know, there's more to this. You can find that elsewhere, but y'all are watching me because I'm one of your pastors. First is that racism is evil. It is not a societal ill. It is not a throwback to a less developed time in our culture, in our humanity. It is a sin to look down on someone else because of the color of their skin is wicked. It's not just a bad idea. It's not just a violation of their human rights. It's a sin. Amy sent me a video this morning from someone she follows on social media talking about that racism is an affront to God who created all of us. It's an affront to the gospel because the gospel reconciles, it doesn't drive apart. I think he had one more, I don't remember what it was. Racism is a sin. It should not be joked about, it should not be dismissed, but it should be recognized as the evil that it truly is. I would say that racism is personal also. I know that I'm getting onto a little bit thinner ice with this, but one of the difficulties for me is that people will automatically assume that the color of one's skin, the shade, we're all the same color, it's the shade of one's skin is an automatic indicator of their racism. Because I have light skin, it is an automatic reality that I deal with racism. And I would urge you to remember that that's not altogether true. Indeed, that is something that from a biblical perspective we can assume that we are all automatically sinners, and that's right, and that's something that is absolutely rooted in Scripture, but we also should remember that we do not all automatically struggle with the same things. I have never been tempted to steal things. That's not my sin nature. But I've been tempted in a lot of other ways that you may not be tempted with because of my sin nature. It's not automatic because of my hair color or my eye color or my skin tone. It's just part of who we are. So racism is personal. It's not automatic, but it is a heart problem that individuals struggle with. We hear so much about the systemic racism in our culture. I am not a sociologist. I have not read enough about this. I am not going to say that that is not a reality. Indeed, the stuff that we're seeing right now, it is disheartening just how much is coming to light. I would say instead that it's something that we as individuals struggle with. Racism is a personal evil that is found in the hearts. I don't remember who said it, but the dividing line is in every human soul. I don't know, y'all can find that quote for me. Racism is evil, racism is personal, racism is present now on so much of social media and in our news outlets today. The picture that we are given is that racism is almost universal in our culture. The fancy word, here's your vocab word for this video, it is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. That's the narrative that we're fed, that racism props up in every place in our country. I don't think that that is accurate, but I also believe that racism is far more present than most of us would like for it to be, and that most of us would admit that it is. Indeed, when this story first started coming out, and I heard about George Floyd's senseless murder, I thought, this is in Minneapolis? What a strange place for something like this to take place. And of course the narrative is that racism is everywhere. And I'm not going to say that racism is everywhere, but I will say that, yeah, there is sin everywhere. And that racism is far more present than we think that it is. This is something that I particularly tend to struggle with because I live here in Pahrump. I'm not meaning to make any sort of social commentary. I am saying that most folks who live out here have the same skin tone as I do. That's just how things have fallen here in our town. And so I don't think about this that much. I also know that I have a lighter skin tone. And so I do not see this as much. And I read things and I read stories about folks with darker skin tones than I have to struggle with this all the time. That doesn't make sense to me because I have not had to deal with it. I am not going to say that that is everywhere and that every person of a lighter skin tone is automatically looking at those with a darker skin tone with suspicion and with fear. I don't think that that's reasonable. It's not logical, but we also should recognize that racism is far more present than it should be, than we would like for it to be. It's evil, it's personal, it's present, and it is potent. Racism is potent. Now, if you believe the news today, and as you just kind of built your understanding of the world based on what all is coming across the news waves, you would think that racism is the end all sin. It is the granddaddy of all sins, and that if we do not deal with it right away, then we are just letting the greatest evil in our culture just go to naught. I'm not going to say that racism is the end all sin, because there are so many more that are destroying us, and we'll get into that a little bit as we keep on moving. It's not the end all sin, but it is diabolical. And I say that with the real definition, and it's from Satan, that it is a horribly potent sin that does destroy lives, that hurts so many, that causes so much destruction and so much pain. The things to come, I do not ever mean to downplay the sin of racism. It is a sin, it is evil, it is personal. There are people who struggle with this, there are people who aren't consumed by it, and that is wicked. It is present. I don't think it's everywhere, but I know that it's more than we would like for it to be. That's coming clear the more things come out. And it is potent. It's not the end all sin, but it is diabolical, and we must never excuse it. We must never downplay the hurt that other people go through. We should understand it, and we're going to get to better ways of understanding that kind of in a few minutes. But racism is wrong. The murder of George Floyd was wrong. Any murder is wrong, but particularly murders, whatever guise they come under, that are rooted in the pigment in our skin, those are ridiculous, and those are wicked. They should be condemned soundly, and they should be punished as much as they should be punished. And that's rooted in our biblical understanding also.